My wife and I love nature photography, and we heard that Costa Rica is a great place for it, with tropical birds, monkeys, sloths, jaguars, and iguanas. So we packed our bags and headed there for a week-long spring vacation, and it definitely delivered. This video will show you what we saw, where we saw it, and what my research tells me about the best places to find those species. After arriving at the international airport near San Jose, Costa Rica, our first destination was Quepos, Punta Arenas province, home of the Manuel Antonio National Park. On our way, we stopped for lunch at the beach town of Jaco, where we saw some scarlet macaws in flight. As they banked to the right, we caught the blue from the top of their wing feathers in the sunlight. It was awesome to see. Sadly, we did not have our cameras at the ready, so we did not get pictures of them until we arrived in Quepos. There, right across the street from the Yamaha dealer, a bus driver pointed out to us on top of a palm tree where a pair of macaws had built their nest. We would see both of them again the next day. This map shows the current location of scarlet macaws, but I understand the best places to spot them are on the Pacific coast in Drake Bay, Jaco, and Quepos. On a morning walk along the beach in Quepos, we saw several other species of birds that can't be found in northern United States, including the tropical kingbird. The tropical kingbird is a species of flycatcher with a range that includes about all of Costa Rica, as well as much of Central and South America. In the same area, we saw a great kiskadee. This bird stands out with its masked face and golden belly. We would go on to notice these in other parts of the country. Their range extends through most of Central and South America. It was not until our second day, when we visited Manuel Antonio National Park, that we saw some of the charismatic mammals for which the park is so well known. Even as we were waiting in line to get our bags checked before entering, we heard the howling of the mantled howler monkey. We did not have a guide for this particular park, though I recommend it. The guides are naturalists who can answer questions about the species, know where you can typically spot them, and have powerful scopes on tripods so they can pinpoint the animals through the foliage for their group. I overheard one of them saying that howler monkeys send out young adults as scouts to watch out for danger. These scouts can give out a call when they see intruders. Later the same day in the park, we heard some howling at a plane that flew over. They have populations in many parts of Costa Rica. We only saw them near the entrance to Manuel Antonio, which is the park with the greatest population density. Corcovado National Park has by far the largest total number of howlers, followed by Santa Rosa National Park and Tortuguero National Park. Soon after entering the park, we took the waterfall trail to the left. We quickly encountered a pair of great tinamous. These pheasant-sized birds seemed totally unfazed by my wife and me. Known for their haunting calls and the fact that the males care for their eggs, great tinamous are more common in the lowlands, whereas other species of tinamous can be found in the mountains. When we got to the end of the waterfall trail, we discovered that the creek that formed the waterfall only ran during the wet season. But better yet, there was a troop of squirrel monkeys jumping through the trees that surrounded the clearing. We hung out for about 20 minutes, and although they never got close, they were around us the whole time. Central American squirrel monkeys typically travel in groups of 20 to 75 monkeys. Their social hierarchy is egalitarian compared to many species. The species is considered threatened, existing only along a small stretch of the Pacific coast of Costa Rica and Panama. They are most easily seen in Manuel Antonio and Corcovado National Park. Next, we went on the Cathedral Point Trail out on the peninsula. Reaching the beach, we saw several iguanas. I believe most of the iguanas we saw on our trip were black spiny-tailed iguanas. They are some of the more abundant animals you will find, and they come in various sizes. Specifically, we saw them at Manuel Antonio during a brief stop in Jaco, and then down at Uvita. When in a boat 10 miles out to sea from Uvita, we also saw what we believed to be a large green iguana swimming, but I did not succeed at getting a picture or video of that. We continued out around the Cathedral Point Trail, but we were not used to the heat yet, so after the loop we started heading back the way we came. Just past the tower, we came upon a large group of white-faced capuchin monkeys that were not there when we passed by the same point an hour earlier. Seemingly less reticent of human interaction compared to the howler or squirrel monkeys, several passed back and forth through a large group of tourists who were on the trail.
No, hey, you guys,
At one point, a visitor left a faucet running, and several of the monkeys came up to drink, but a tour guide quickly turned it off and explained that monkeys who learn to gain access to human sources of water can become stronger and aggressive towards other monkeys. Capuchin monkeys are among the most common monk in Costa Rica, with at least some living in most of the national parks. We did not get a chance to see any spider monkeys on our trip, which really only live in areas of dense forest. The only park with a large population of these is Corcovado National Park. As we were heading toward the exit, we saw on a side path a group of people looking up into a tree. We went to see what they were looking at and saw what we think was a two-toed sloth sleeping. However, we did not get a clear view of either the face or the front claws. Two-toed sloths are more active than three-toed, but awake primarily at night. That evening we returned to the park with the purpose of attending a night tour, and soon before the van arrived at the park, the driver stopped to point out two sloths. One in a tree was clearly a three-toed, as the toes were visible. Three-toed sloths are slower and sleep more in general, but they are awake primarily during the day. The species of three-toed in Costa Rica is the brown-throated sloth. At the same location there was another sloth crossing the road, which appeared to be a two-toed. The species of two-toed in Costa Rica is Hoffman's two-toed sloth. Unfortunately, our night tour of the park was canceled due to rain. Many species in Costa Rica are only awake at night, so there are many species you won't see without a night tour. The next morning we headed north towards Monteverde for some cooler weather. On the road we stopped briefly in Jaco, near a colorful roadside sign. From there, we walked briefly down a trail to the shoreline, and on the way back up, we encountered a coati. Coatis are relatives of the raccoon, found throughout Costa Rica in both national parks and even urban areas. Unlike raccoons, they are awake during the day. That afternoon, we arrived at Monteverde Cloud Forest Reserve. We did not have tickets to enter the park or a tour scheduled until the next morning, but we stopped just outside the entrance of the park at the Café Colibri, which is famous for the hummingbird feeders found just outside. Costa Rica has strict laws against feeding wild animals, including birds, but this café was able to get special permission to do so. The lush tropical forest has many kinds of hummingbirds, and we were able to see at least 5 different species up close and all around us, including the green-crowned brilliant. The males of this species have a deep iridescent green color. The species typically feeds clinging to flowers rather than hovering. The purple-throated mountain gem is a species that really only exists in the mountains of Costa Rica and Panama. The lesser violet ear has a somewhat wider range stretching into the Andes Mountains. A pair of lesser violet ears were recorded flying 90 miles per hour. I only caught the briefest view of a magenta-throated wood star as it flew in for a quick drink and left again. The violet saber wing is the largest species of hummingbird in Central America or Mexico, with some growing up to 5.9 inches long. My wife also got a shot of a banana quit, which is not a hummingbird, but like hummingbirds feeds primarily on nectar. Its name does not come from its diet, but rather the color of its chest. That night we stayed at Toromir House, an Airbnb down the slope a bit from the park. We enjoyed sunset out on the balcony, and the next morning as we were eating our breakfast we got a visit from our first toucan, a keel-billed toucan who followed his nose to a branch where he perched and groomed himself for about 15 minutes. We would later see one flying near the entrance of the park, and when we took a night tour near the park, we saw one sleeping in the forest. This species of toucan can be spotted in much of Central America. In Costa Rica, some of the best places to see them are Tortuguero National Park in the Caribbean lowlands, as well as higher elevations near Arenal Volcano National Park and the Monteverde region. After breakfast, we headed out for a morning tour at the Monteverde Cloud Forest Reserve. The reserve was founded by a group of American Quakers who were drawn to Costa Rica in the 1950s by the country's decision not to have a standing army. After moving to the town of Monteverde, they protected the land and found that in doing so, the forest quickly began spreading. Much of the dense, lush forest in the park is less than 60 years old. The environment there is a bird lover's paradise, as there are many species hard to find elsewhere. However, because of the density of the forest, there are plenty of places for the birds and other animals to hide. So if you go there, you really should consider a tour with a guide. Near the entrance, we saw this slate-throated redstart. In northern parts of this bird's range, they tend to have a red stomach, but in Costa Rica, their stomachs are a bold yellow color. Monteverde has a number of breeding pairs of resplendent quetzals, which is the national bird of Guatemala. We saw some, but my wife and I only got the briefest of videos of a female quetzal. Near the end of our tour, we got a brief view through the brush of what our guide referred to as the turkey of Costa Rica. The great curassow feeds on the forest floor and is considered a vulnerable species. One of the most reliable places to see them, along with many other kinds of wildlife, is the La Selva Biological Station, a biological preserve and research station where tourists are also welcome. The next morning, we headed south again to the town of Uvita, where we had scheduled a snorkeling expedition to the coral reefs near Cano Island. I will give my review of that expedition in a separate video. We arrived around noon and made a short stop at what would be our launching point for that expedition, the Merino Ballena National Park. Along their path upon entering the park, we saw dozens of what I believe is the Halloween moon crab. I also spotted, hidden in the brush, this beautiful yellow-spotted whip snake, about 1 meter in length. That evening after dinner, we made what might have been my biggest mistake of the whole trip. I asked ChatGPT to recommend a roadside lookout point where we could get out of our car and have a view of the ocean below us. It recommended a spot it called Mirador Uvita, which I later learned was just the word for Uvita viewpoint. Entering on a dirt road from the north, we did not have much trouble ascending to the lookout point. The scene was nice, but then my wife saw that we were not the only ones enjoying the view. A fiery-billed aracari was in a nearby tree. Fiery-billed aracaris live only along the Pacific coast of southern Costa Rica and northern Panama. We asked Google Maps to take us back to our hotel, and it told us to continue the same direction we were pointed, to the south. And within minutes we saw our third species of toucan of the trip, the chestnut-mandibled toucan, also known as the yellow-throated toucan. This is the largest species of toucan in Costa Rica, and has a presence on both the Caribbean and the Pacific coasts. This was all great. The problem started when, following Google Maps instructions, we continued on to the south exit, rather than turning around and exiting the way we came. The road got rougher and rougher. We were okay headed downhill, but soon we came to a steep, muddy incline that our vehicle just could not handle. Fortunately, a kind local landowner was able to help tow us out. But if you try to find this lookout point, it is important to enter and depart from the north if you don't have four-wheel drive. The next morning was our snorkeling, and that evening we drove to our hotel in Alajuela near the airport. Our final morning was Good Friday, and many people were off work, so it was very peaceful. Walking near the Central Park of Alajuela and the Alajuela Cathedral, we saw a large number of crimson-fronted parakeets, also known as Finch's parakeets. The amorous pairs seemed to be nesting in trees on the north side of the cathedral, the opposite side from the rest of the park. We saw a lot of species in 6 days, yet there are a lot we did not see, including any of the species of wildcats such as jaguars, ocelots, pumas, jaguarundi, margays, and the little spotted cats. Most wildcat species are nocturnal, rare, and secretive, making sightings very rare. Do not pin your hopes on seeing one in the wild. Many naturalists living in Costa Rica may themselves go their whole life without spotting a jaguar. Of any of these species, you will have your best chance of seeing an ocelot, which can sometimes be seen at dusk or even in the daylight. The best places to see them are Corcovado National Park, Tortuguero National Park, and Monteverde Cloud Forest Reserve. Arranging a night tour with a naturalist at one of these parks will increase your chances. We also did not see the American crocodile that famously hang out by the river under Crocodile Bridge over the Tarcoles River. Though we passed over this bridge several times, we were told that construction currently going on the bridge has driven them away for the moment. We did not do any mangrove or riverboat tours, but they are regularly seen on these, along with caimans. Best places to see these are Tortuguero National Park, Palo Verde National Park, and Corcovado National Park. Finally, we did not see any tapirs. This distant relative of the horse can weigh more than 600 pounds. The best place to spot them is at Corcovado National Park, where they can sometimes be seen on the beach or near Serena Ranger Station. All in all, my wife and I were very pleased with how much we were able to see in 6 days. We look forward to our next chance to get back to this beautiful country.